You are now listening to the Molten Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening to us. I am your host, Rob Kennedy, and this is the Molten Fantasy Sport Podcast. I'm the owner, coach, manager of the Delicious Raviolis, and I'm sitting here with my co-host, Mickie Dell. How are you, my friend?
Robbie, how are we, mate? And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am the owner, the manager, and hopefully the 2023 winner of the AFL Supercoach. What's going on, mate?
Mate, I really hope people are watching us on YouTube because that was the most theatrical you've ever got into your little short. And
Getting into it.
Yeah, mate, something's going on. I know it's a little bit later over east. Maybe he's a little bit tired, but mate, we are on our game right now because we are doing episode 2 of our quick fire top 10s. If anyone is looking to build their team for round 1, make sure you go back and listen to the episode just before. It was my top 10 of your must-have players, not just about scoring, but based on prices and everything on why you should have them in your team. Today, I don't know, more important, maybe more important. I reckon it's actually more important. We are doing the top 10 Mickie Dell's must-avoid players. The reason I say it's probably more important is these are the players that could really stuff up your year once you bring them into your team. So click subscribe. Make sure you click subscribe. If you haven't done it already, you do not want to miss an episode. We are so close to round 1. It is not even funny. I'm getting excited. I can't get off Twitter enough because I love the chat. Thank you to everybody who follows me on Twitter. Thank you for everybody who tweets and gets involved. I wasn't even on Twitter until it was like maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and I'm loving it. There are some really educated people out there. So, mate, we're going to keep these ones short, sharp, under 20-minute kind of episodes, but these are probably some of the most important stats that people could listen to, don't you think?
I think so. Yeah, especially if you want to get your season off to a good start and not get sucked into the hype that's getting around some of the players and also some of the prior history that, they were so-so, scorers. Oh, they're blitzing this preseason. They're going to be fantastic. And then they'll just shit all over you. So listen in, take our advice on board and do with it what you will.
I have my pen ready. Because I respect you highly. I've called you the stat man many a time before. You sat and watched all 9 games of the preseason over the weekend, which, mate, I either respect your partner, whatever it is that allows you to do that. But, mate, fantastic. So, mate, I am going to hand over the host shoes to you. I don't know what your list is. I'm excited to give you my natural reaction.
Yep.
Mate, this is your show. Go for it.
Well, let's start off at number 10. And I make no apologies to players that I bring up in this list because, again, we want the viewers to have the best chance of winning this year's 2023 AFL Supercoach. So at number 10, I've got Sam Walsh from Carlton, 610K. He's just had back surgery. He hasn't had any match fitness. He's been running and blitzing the track or whatever else. But for anyone that's ever had back surgery, nothing compares to being in an actual game environment. And you'd know as well, Robbie, being in that senior footy environment for a long amount of your career, you can't just run back out on the track and start picking up 35 disposals without getting that match fitness and that game awareness back. So at number 10, it's Sam Walsh for me.
Man, I'm very impressed that you gave me the word career. It's a very loose career for anyone who's listening along. No, I didn't play footy. I played footy, but I didn't have a career in AFL football. I did have a tennis so-called career, but you're right. You can't just come back in. I find it so weird that he's still owned in teams. It kind of makes me feel like I'd love to know how many bot teams there are out there and sort of just fake. But yeah, mate, it makes sense. Steer clear of him at the moment. Watch maybe round 15, see where he's at. He could be one of those that people getting ready for their league playoffs and he might come back in or something if he plays the way that we know he can. He's an absolute gun.
Yep. Number 9, and sitting at 14%, believe it or not, it's Justin's mate, Jason Horn Francis. The Horn bag has made the list. At 348K, you've got to believe that this bloke is going to make you 200K. We've seen last year when things got hard, he shit the bed, he started whinging. I believe, and we brought this up in episodes previous, they're almost overinflating his ego at the moment to get his confidence up. He gave away 6 or 7 free kicks on the weekend that were all pretty silly and still scored 70 points. So unless you believe that he's going to go over 100 each week and make you 150K, he's not worth your time.
It's a good one, mate. It's a really interesting. It's not a name that I thought would have popped up on your must avoids. I'm intrigued on what's going to come. Am I going to start calling you Kane Corns, mate? Are we going for a bit of clickbait?
No, definitely no clickbait. It's all stats based here.
All right. So you honestly reckon? So I mean, we're talking about a guy that was quoted as possibly being a once in a generation type player, and all of a sudden now he's already on the must avoids at a price that's kind of, you know, score decent. You're going to actually increase in cash.
Well, I'll put it to you: is he going to score the same amount or be on a similar par to Hopper, James Warple, these sorts of players, Elliot Yeo?
He's meant to, but I don't think he's going to. So I can understand why you're there. I haven't seen enough from him to, as in I've watched his games. I genuinely haven't seen enough for him to warrant. You go back to, who was it? North Melbourne. And I think it was like Adelaide. The rumours went around. They offered the 4 first rounders and the number 2 pick was one of them at the same time. They're jumping all over that if that came back to them again. But yeah, good number 9, mate. I like it.
I think he'll be good, but not this year. At number 8, Harry Himmelberg from GWS. He's priced at $499K and still in 5% of teams. He's playing forward. They were up by almost 70 points against Gold Coast at one stage on the weekend, and he still only had 4 or 5 touches up to that point. It's a waste of money. If you've got him in your side, look for that little red button with the minus sign on it. Click that. Use your money elsewhere.
No, I can't argue there. New coach who's obviously showing they're not doing anything too crazy in preseason. If he was going to go down back and put the numbers up like he did last time when he was in the back line, he would have been there already. So absolute must avoid at the moment. Great call.
Yeah, at number 7, Pat Lipinski, Collingwood. So he would not normally make this list, but words just come out today that he's in for shoulder surgery and he's not going to be ready till mid-season. So for the 3% of people that have him in their team, you best get rid of him.
Yeah, I really like that you're putting some players in like this. I mean, you look, for anyone who's listening along who's a seasoned veteran and follows footy every day, let's remember, great, you know it, but we've got some people who are searching this, starting to put their round 1 teams together, do it for a bit of a social experiment, kind of enjoy a bit of footy. Pat Lipinski is somebody who you'd go, hold on a second, he had a bit of a good year last year. I've heard some things about him, could break out a bit further. If they don't know the injury report, we've got to put these kind of players in. So, yep, because of the injury, he's an absolute must-have, must avoid, I should say. But he's one of those ones that could have been a smoky if he wasn't injured, that I could see why people might take a chance on him.
While we're discussing that, I'd like to give a bit of a shout-out to one of our viewers who's in New York, in the US. Jeremy Phelan, how are you, buddy? And congratulations on the newborn. So Jeremy's just got in contact with us saying that he hasn't seen or heard much of the AFL, but he's been watching our podcast to get his intel. So if you're listening, Jez, or no doubt you are, how are you, bud? Shout out from the Molten boys.
New York, for the record, is my favourite city in the world. I love that place. Anyone who knows me, I lived in California for 6 years over there playing tennis, went to college. I really wish I'd ventured more over to the east because I love New York. You give me a job, I'm moving there tomorrow. Don't tell my son that, but yeah, I love it. So, mate, I hope he's enjoying New York, and congratulations, and get excited. Footy's round the corner.
It is. At number 6, and at 5 or in 5% of teams, Jordan De Goey, Collingwood. I'm not going to dance around it. I think the bloke's got some head noise, and if he channels his aggression towards the footy and plays the team brand that Collingwood want him to play, they've taken so many risks on him. He's burnt me year after year thinking, yep, he's going to come good, and then he ends up missing games. He gets on the piss. He just goes walkabout. I think he'll do well when he plays, but for that consistency and someone that I want to have for all 22 games or best part of, I don't think that I can trust him enough to have him in my team.
It's a really gutsy call by you, mate. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I must admit I've thought about him this year. I had I'm with you on everything that you say about him, and you just don't have the confidence. But when he's playing, I think he's playing some of the best footy not only as a player, but even as a Supercoach scorer as well. The one thing we talk about here, there's a difference between being a good player and a good Supercoach player. That, you know, some can be great Supercoach players and they might not be fantastic players, or vice versa. But he's playing some of the best footy he has. But I agree with you. You just can't trust it, and you're just too worried what's going to happen week in, week out. Sometimes you just can't have that.
That's right. At number 5, Aaron Hall, North Melbourne. So he's priced at $438K, and he's still in 2% of teams. His hamstrings are a big issue. I don't think he's gotten through a full season for the past 3 or 4 years. And yes, when he does play, he does score well, but you're almost holding your breath every time you see him sprint after the ball because you think his hamstrings are going to fall out the back of his legs. So for me, stay away from him.
It's like I gave you the perfect segue to talking about great players and great Supercoach scorers, or vice versa, or not great players. Yeah. I hate him as a player, but he was putting up some disgusting numbers in Supercoach. But this year with the injuries, and once you do soft tissue is going to come back and get you all the time. So don't do it, gang. If you're just joining Supercoach for the first time.
Number 4, and at 2% of teams, Matt Crouch from Adelaide. $498K. In years gone by, he has been someone that you look to get your points in the middle, and this is when Adelaide weren't very good. They're on the way up. They will be better this year, but they're looking to blood, your Sam Berrys and these sorts of players in the midfield. I'd be very surprised if Matt Crouch plays 10 games this year for Adelaide. So just purely because he won't be playing, and when he does play, the young blokes will get first crack at it and he'll be more of a mentor. Stay away.
A really interesting one, Matt Crouch, isn't he? I mean, the guy can play. He knows how to get the footy. I am sort of a bit perplexed as to what got him out of that side. I mean, you never know what's going on in the inner sanctum of a football team and that kind of thing. But, it's surprising with a team like that he can't get a game and then at the same time didn't move on in the off-season either. So, watch this space, but too risky. Yeah.
I think he wanted to be traded, but they wanted to hold on to him, and he still hasn't played like in any preseason games or anything like that. So, that's surprising to me.
Mate, I don't know who their sample affiliate is or how that works in Adelaide, but tell you what, they're getting an absolute weapon, aren't they?
Yeah, aren't they? Yeah. At number 3, at 3%, Lloyd Meek from Hawthorn. $431K, and he's in a shared role with Ned Reeves. I watched that game back, and I think he will be a good player, but it's very clear that Ned Reeves is the number 1 ruck there at the moment, given that they believe that Lloyd can take one of the key position forward roles. So you'll get your 70 or 80 out of him each week, but as a starting ruck, you want more than that. So, stay away.
Even still, I don't actually reckon you'll get your 70, 80 out of him. I rate him as a player. I like that Hawthorn picked him up. I think he's a genuine ruck. He nearly won the he sort of had a bit of a smoky for I'm trying to think what it's called now, the waffle medal over here. Sandover. I just had an absolute, bit of a mind dump there. He had a fantastic season over here, but I think he has to play ruck. So for us, if Ned Reeves goes down a little bit, I know he'll play at the moment with Mitch Lewis being out, but I don't see Sam Mitchell playing 2 genuine rucks. I think he'll work something out there. So I don't think he's going to get you 70, 80. If something happens to Ned Reeves, he's somebody you might look to. I actually think he might be a better ruck than Ned Reeves right now, but Ned Reeves is clearly the future. So
Well, Ned Reeves is like 6'11" or something like that.
He's a mad job. Wow, he's got to fill out a little bit, but he's a big guy. I saw the team photo. He's a big dude.
He's a good head above everyone else.
Yeah, I was actually impressed with how he came on last year. I'm impressed to see what he's going to turn into.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between him and Jared Witts the way he started. Number 2 for me, and these last 2 are not cheap plays by any means. They're both over 500K.
Ooh.
So number 2 is Alex Witherton from West Coast Eagles. 552K in 1% of teams, so there are still people that are putting him in their teams. He just won't play. Like, when he gets the ball, he's great, but his defensive awareness is next to none and only plays when there's injuries. And even last year, when West Coast were decimated by injuries, he was still dropped because of form, even though he was getting plenty of the pill because he just wasn't accountable on his man. So he won't play. Stay away. Being
a WA boy and not a West Coast fan at all, but I actually really liked when they picked him up. I thought he was actually going to slot in really nicely to their team. Shannon Hearn was kind of on his last legs, and they're not the same, but you could see that he'd sort of take that kind of role. But yeah, he just really hasn't come on. And when he comes in, he scores Supercoach points, but a lot of it's just absolute junk, which is sad because I think he's got potential to be a decent player, but Hearn's gone on for another year, and all that tells you is just that they just don't trust what he's going to give them. So yeah, no, must avoid for sure.
Yeah, and in at number 1 for me, if you've listened to previous podcasts in the past, you'd know my dislike for this player. It is Braden Pruce from GWS. 500K, a little bit more. I don't know where to start. He's just stupid. Like, he scores well, but he just does stupid shit to get himself either suspended or he hurts himself. Like, he's not a bad player, but when you're talking about from the shoulders up, there's clearly, a few crayons short of a full box, So you just don't pick him.
Big shout out to Braden Pruce if he's listening along. And you've mentioned it before. We've got some special guests probably coming up. You've had a bit of a football career yourself and know a few of the boys and stuff. So we might get a few on there. Maybe we'll have to ask some of the special guests that we get on if they know the guy. But yeah, it's disappointing because he actually can play and he was, Gawn's understudy for a while and all that sort of stuff and not getting a gig. Well, here was your chance to step up and be the number 1 ruck. And when you played all right. Then you start giving your spot away because you do stupid stuff. But, yeah, it's a tough one. I talked about him early on. I was like, look, he might be a bit of a sleeper this year, but you totally convinced me to jump off. And the more I looked into it, you're spot on. He's, a bit of an avoid at the moment. So, mate, it's a good list. Do you want to give us your 10 again? Yeah,
sure. So from the top, Sammy Walsh, Jason Horn-Francis, Herbie's boy, Harrison Himmelberg, Pat Lipinski, Jordan DeGoey, Aaron Hall, Matt Crouch, Lloyd Meek, Alex Witherton, and number 1, not the smartest man, Braden Pruce.
It's a very good list for anyone. As you said, if we're thinking about building your team, I know a lot of people are doing the explode and rebuild before round 1. So go back and listen to the episode before. You had my top 10 must-haves. Throw a few of them in there. If you start thinking about some players, make sure you've listened to this one and avoid them. You've heard it first. If I'm going to trust anyone, it's Mickie Dell. He does a lot of good research, does a lot of good work. Mate, great list. We've got one more top 10 to go, which is after this episode, and we're going to talk about our top 10 sleepers. For anyone who's looking for that point of difference, make sure you get on and have a listen to that one. Del, any final words, mate, before we step out and then step back in?
No, just another shout out for the Molten Fantasy Pod on Supercoach. If you'd like to be a part of our league, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, 237113. That number again, 237113. Feel free to contact us on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Robbie and I, we're just starting to get our heads around how the whole Twitter sphere works. So if we don't get back to you straight away, we apologise. We will get to you. But there's been some really good content coming through for us to research, for us to answer. We appreciate it. We will get back to everyone. Keep up the good work, guys.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Do you know how many times I've done a post and not done a hashtag at the end? I've had to delete and do it again because I've realised if you don't put the hashtag, no one will find it. But, loving it. I'll tell you what, I'll never steal credit for anybody's work. So we have screenshot a few of those great stats that are on there, and we'll give a shout out to the people that have done it because there's some awesome stats that we want to make sure that we pass on to all our listeners, all our viewers. Make sure you click subscribe. Mate, I need to go get some chocolate to get myself fired up for this last episode. I've been loving these little quick fire ones with you. Love your work, Mickie Dell. To everybody else who's been listening along, we send you some love. This has been the Molten Fantasy Sport Podcast. Peace out.
See ya.